Bonjour. Je vous propose 100 francs par tableau achevé et 150 francs pour les grands formats.
Désolé, excuse-moi. Il se roman de merde, là, hein. Tu sais ce que j'en pense?
Bon alors t'es où? Rappelle-moi, je m'inquiète. It's not like her at all to disappear without saying anything.
Hello and welcome to Arts 24. It's time for our weekly dive into French cinema, and for that I'm joined by our critic Manon Kerjean. Hi Manon. We begin with a special focus on the Cannes Film Festival kicking off next week. They've just announced the members of this year's jury. President Park Chan-wook will be joined by Demi Moore, actress Ruth Negga, filmmakers Chloe Zhao and Laura Wandel, and actor Stellan Skarsgård, among others, of course. It's an international and starry mix as usual, and they'll be weighing up the films in the running for the big prize, the Palme d'Or. And both in and out of competition, there does seem to be a particularly strong selection of French films and French stars. Manon, tell us more about some of them.
Yes, absolutely. There's a real concentration of French language films, or some co-produced by France, with a total of 63 movies, and also a lot of major French stars among the selection, such as Catherine Deneuve in 2 movies, or Marion Cotillard in a film called Karma, directed by her former husband, Guillaume Canet, marking their first collaboration since they went their separate ways. So beyond the number of films, it really feels like a year where French cinema is both very present and very visible internationally, with big names that audiences already recognize.
And one of the highlights every year, of course, is the opening feature. This year, that's The Electric Kiss, or La Vénus électrique, directed by Pierre Salvadori. It's set in Paris in the 1920s. What can we expect from this one?
Well, what's quite appealing is really the premise itself, which feels both playful and melancholic. It follows a grieving painter who tries to contact his deceased wife, only to be deceived by a young woman pretending to be a medium. And the period setting plays an important role because spiritualism was very popular in the 20s. So the film can explore belief and manipulation in a way that feels more natural than if the film was happening nowadays. And visually, it's a very ambitious project with a strong attention to costume, set, and cinematography. And Salvadori is known for blending comedy with something more bittersweet. So this is a film that moves quite elegantly between tones. And it's his 4th collaboration with Pio Marmaille, and it's also starring Anaïs Desmoustiers, Vima Laponce, and Gilles Lelouch. Let's take a look.
Et le peintre, il est beau?
Oh, il est beau.
Bonjour. Je vous propose 100 francs par tableau achevé et 150 francs pour les grands formats.
Peins le monde pour moi.
Elle m'a demandé de peindre. C'est merveilleux, ça.
J'avais pas touché un pinceau depuis son décès.
Ah, Irène, si tu savais, ce lac.
Je voudrais parfois y retourner et me laisser couler.
Hein?
Romantic scams, they are eternal, apparently. Well, that's the opening film. It's not in the competition for the Palme d'Or, but what should we be looking out for in the competition?
Well, maybe The Unknown, or L'Inconnu in French, by Arthur Harari. This one has a very intriguing concept, which could make it one of the most unusual films in the competition. It follows a photographer who lives a very withdrawn life until one night he becomes fascinated by a woman at a party, and then wakes up in her body.
Wow.
So it could make us think of Freaky Friday, but knowing the director's work, we can expect something that blurs the line between reality and fantasy, and definitely not a comedy. His previous film, Onoda, in 2021, was also selected in Cannes, and he had won the Best Screenplay Award at the César. The photographer in this film is played by Nils Schneider, and the mysterious woman is none other than Léa Seydoux, who's best known internationally for her role in Blue is the Warmest Color, and also in the James Bond franchise.
And indeed, Adele Exarchopoulos, who played alongside Léa Seydoux in Blue is the Warmest Color, she's also back in Cannes this year.
Yes, they had both won the Palme d'Or for this film, and she's back with Another Day, or Garance in French, directed by Jeanne Herry, who brought us Je verrai toujours vos visages and Pupille, 2 incredible films. This one seems to be more grounded, but still quite intense. It follows a young actress struggling with alcoholism over several years through different phases of her life. And I like the idea of following a character over such a long period of time. It's almost like a fragmented portrait. And it suggests a film that's less about plot and more about emotional evolution, and also a broader exploration of a generation, kind of like the role she had in Rien à foutre, or Zero Fucks Given in English, where she played a flight attendant.
Yeah, it was a real display of how much range she had in that film. I remember being very impressed. Now to Parallel Tales by Iranian director Arthur Harari. This has a really strong cast: Isabelle Huppert, Vincent Cassel, Pierre Ninet, and Virginie Efira. You've said that you're looking forward to this one.
Yes, this is a particularly exciting one because Ashghar Farhadi is a regular at Cannes. He already received 3 awards there, and he always brings very layered, complex narratives. There is a recurring theme in this selection because here he also explores the relationship between fiction and reality through a writer who spies on her neighbors for inspiration. And as often with Farhadi, there's a strong focus on everyday spaces and characters, even though the themes are quite complex. He also avoids the usual postcard images of Paris, choosing a much more intimate perspective on the city instead. Here is a glimpse.
Ça n'a rien à voir avec nous, ces conneries.
Bah parce que ça n'a rien à voir avec vous, pourquoi vous êtes si énervé?
Ça vient pas de nulle part, tout ça. Je suis désolé, excuse-moi.
Et ce roman de merde, là, hein. Tu sais ce que j'en pense?
Les gens se comportent plus comme ça aujourd'hui.
Ah oui, ils se comportent comment? T'approches pas de moi!
Yeah, probably going to be a highlight at Cannes this year, I suspect. Well, we continue now with Mi Amor. This is the latest film by Guillaume Niclou. It's set in the Canary Islands, and it follows a young DJ who travels there with a friend for a techno party, but by morning, her friend has disappeared. Okay, what did you think of this one?
Well, this one is a thriller that gradually shifts into something psychedelic, almost paranoid, with a lot of anxiety and suspense. It's not just about finding her missing friend, it's really about what that loss does to the character and how it changes her perception of reality. So visually, the film looks quite striking. It was shot in Gran Canaria, as you said, but in a very stylized way, with altered colors and landscape that feel almost unreal, with pink palm trees, for example. The idea was really to create an environment that feels both familiar and unsettling to reflect the character's mental state. Let's take a look.
We have a lot of cults in the archipelago. Bon alors t'es où? Rappelle-moi, je m'inquiète. It's not like her at all to disappear without saying anything.
Is your friend religious?
What?
We have a lot of cults in the archipelago.
Cults? Et le mec qui parlait avec Chloé sur la piste, c'est lui, j'en suis sûre. Je les ai suivis.
T'inquiète pas, on va retrouver ta copine.
Like you say, Manon, it looks quite tense and stylistic in terms of how it's edited. What did you think of the performances?
Well, the film is carried by Plum Clemente, who plays the lead role. She's known internationally for big productions like Guardians of the Galaxy. And there's something very magnetic about her on screen. Opposite her, you have Benoît Magimel, who plays a nightclub owner who helps her in the search, but with a certain ambiguity. You're never quite sure whether he's trustworthy or not, and this really adds to the tension. And he's mostly known abroad for his roles in The Piano Teacher and A Prophet. And he has a kind of raw presence in this film, kind of like a French version of Sean Penn.
Oh, absolutely. Spot on. Yeah, French Sean Penn. Same intensity, perhaps. And I guess given the setting, there's a strong musical dimension to the film.
Yes, that's actually a key element of the film. Since the main character is a DJ, music is everywhere during 1 hour and 53 minutes, which is quite rare. And it was composed by French electronic DJ Irène Drezel. So it's really the soundtrack which gives the film its structure, almost like an additional character. And it creates this hypnotic, immersive feeling which reinforces both the tension and the emotional journey.
Okay, sounds intriguing. Well, now to something quite different, a new French comedy called Pour le Plaisir. This is a crowd pleaser that asks a very simple question. What if the invention of the century was actually about pleasure? The film follows Fanny and Tom, a couple who've been happily married for 20 years, until they realise that Fanny has never had an orgasm. Tom, an engineer, decides to fix that by inventing a device that could revolutionise female pleasure. So it does sound like a bold premise. How does the film handle this?
Yes, what's quite striking is how the film mixes comedy with something much more thoughtful, because underneath it's really about communication and intimacy inside a long-term relationship. Rim Kerjean, the director, was initially approached to tell the story of the inventors behind the womanizer sex toy, but she chose to shift the focus towards something broader, the way female pleasure has been historically ignored, misunderstood, or even censored. So there's this idea of reclaiming the female gaze in a way, not only in terms of storytelling, but also visually. She really insisted on filming everything with a certain elegance and focusing on something almost scientific or emotional in the way pleasure is represented. It's absolutely hilarious at some moments, and I think it's a very important film regarding how difficult it still is to talk about desire and female pleasure in our society.
And like you say, it sounds like a very novel, light approach to a serious question. We'll leave you with a final look at Pour le Plaisir. Indeed, thank you so much, Manon, for guiding us through those new releases this week at the cinema in France. Join us next time here on Arts 24 for more movies, arts and culture. And next week, when we'll be bringing you all the highlights from the Cannes Film Festival.
J'aurais besoin de la référence du livre Le sexe pour les nuls.
Faut que tu te concentres sur son plaisir à elle.
Depuis quelque temps, je suis terrifié à l'idée de te perdre.
Sunday, one so true.